Web3 TV.
Hello, what's up, and welcome back to another episode of the Traders Brawl podcast. I'm Adel, the host, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Sitara Fe, who will be speaking about a very interesting topic on, I'm about to read her bio in a second, but for those who are new, welcome, and for those who have been with us, thank you for staying with us. We are a Fitness with Financial Freedom podcast, and we invite guests every week to invite a new perspective on what they're building, what they're doing with their careers, and how they can add value to our everyday lives. So today's guest is Sitara Fe. I'm going to read out your bio.
Sounds good.
Sitara Fe is an intuitive entrepreneur since 2012, seamlessly bridges the realms of metaphysics and digital innovation, weaving her deep intuitive wisdom into global crypto ventures. With a unique fusion of spiritual insight and technological expertise, she redefines the way we navigate business and success. In 2016, she began her path as a business coach, helping people tune into their soul calling and alignment in business offerings. She currently runs a year-long certification and training course to elevate your intuitive skills with growing your business. Welcome, Sitara.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for being on the show. I really wanted to delve into what it is that inspired you to take on this career. And tell us a bit about your history, please.
All right. So it's funny because, right, my main focus is helping people find their soul calling and creating a business specifically around that. I don't believe that we should be treating healing as a hobby, as something that we do on the side. It's actually, to me, it's that, you know, the world doesn't need more waitresses. We need more people that are really standing in their power, that are speaking the truth of this reality. Mm-hmm. And so I was just born a little bit different, but I didn't really understand that until my early 20s. I first started seeing spirits around, like my first real memories of seeing spirits was around 9 years old. But I also didn't really fully comprehend what was happening. I had my first past life memory come through very strong when I was 12 years old, which really, I remember like spending the rest of the day on the couch trying to process what had happened. And then my abilities started coming in really strong through high school. So I would be, you know, like at a house party or whatever, and I'd see someone's dead relative like sitting in the next room, and I also didn't really understand what was happening, so I did everything I could to turn it off and run away using drugs and alcohol, like numb, turn it off, which ironically is futile and probably one of the worst things I could have done to try to like manage it or mitigate it. But eventually my sensitivities really won, my curiosities. It was in my early 20s, I was getting my degree in psychology, and I found that psychology focused only on mind and body. And so when I was learning about paranoid schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder, to me, I was like, well, this is clearly a spiritual ailment. This isn't focusing on mind, body. There's something else that's going on here. So it didn't make sense to me to just put people on lithium and put them in a, you know, institution and call it good. I was like, wait, what? That's been going on for decades. It was crazy to me. And around that time, I started finding my way to Dr. Brian Weiss's books, the first one, Many Lives, Many Masters. And it was just one of those like perfectly timed books of awakening, because then I started really diving into a lot of his works, quantum mechanics, understanding more of this metaphysical reality. What is fate? What is destiny? What is free will? How do we work with all of that? And simultaneously, more of my past lives started coming online, and I needed answers and explanations. Some of them were quite frightening. I was 21 years old. I didn't know where to go for answers. And so I found my way to a psychic institute. They were doing like 15-minute readings, and I had just some very profound experiences with these people, which ultimately led me to do their full year clairvoyant training program after being in those classes for about 6 months. So I actually decided that psychology wasn't the path for me because I found it very limiting with the American Psychological Association and some of the rules and things that you could and couldn't do. And so I decided to just fully go out of the box and became a professional psychic and have been doing this work ever since.
I see. So being a professional psychic is a term you use everyday, like on an everyday basis, saying that I'm a professional psychic. I help people find their soul calling. Interesting.
Yep.
And there's like, how did you get a certification on this?
So I went to a school called the Berkeley Psychic Institute in Santa Rosa, Sonoma County. And ultimately I had graduated with my degree in psychology, and I could have chosen to continue to get my master's in that, become a counselor, become a therapist. So that's how I was originally being trained. And I had some very profound experiences with readings for myself that answered questions that psychology never in a million years would have ever been able to answer. And so through that experience, I found extraordinary amounts of healing in very, very short amounts of time that really it's literally like, if you think about it, lifetimes of karma that we're all working through, and you're trying to do talk therapy on one session, on one topic for how many years. And this like shortcutted the whole thing, because it's kind of like, I guess kerplunk is kind of a funny way to say it, but you start pulling certain things away, and then all of a sudden, like, just crazy amounts of your own like soul's resolution and reconciliation for the amount of lifetimes that we've had here. Just clearing a lot started to come through, and so that was really where I chose to focus on the clairvoyant training rather than counseling.
Right. Well, it's good. I mean, they do teach this. If you went to a school that helped you get your certification, they do teach this after all. Because I was under the impression they don't teach soul calling and things like this.
They're independent schools. So essentially, I've been running an academy myself since about 2016. A couple destiny detours into the world of crypto. But ultimately, the institutions and academies that are being created are essentially being created virtually. And the beautiful thing is that a lot of us who are aware that we are here to bring harmony to this world we also know the value of grid work, which basically means because we have a global internet system right now, we can do an extraordinary amount of grid work by sitting in front of a Zoom camera, knowing that people, like my clients are global, they're all over the world. And so we do one transmission with the intention of bringing light, harmony, peace, well-being into this world, but we're doing it from all over the planet. It's a really, really exciting time to be able to use tech to do what we're doing. I
forgot to introduce in the initial introduction that we met at a Mind Valley event, which was an interesting place to meet, because it comprised of people from all walks of life, not necessarily in business, but those who are in the realm of soul seeking, sound healing, some yoga therapists I met there as well. They're all about elevating their health, elevating to another level of freedom, so to speak. So my question to you is, when did you realize that intuition, if you want to call it that, was your superpower?
Young.
Yeah.
I was young. It was around my early 20s. Because when I started developing my psychic abilities, I enrolled in a meditation class that they called Psychic Kindergarten, which was so funny to watch pride of the ego of adults that were in there be like, I'm not in kindergarten. But ultimately it was like, we're going back to the basics of understanding color frequency and color therapy and what that does with the energetics, and knowing that it's all frequency based. So literally going back to shape, sounds, color sort of thing. But for me, it was like I literally jumped on this bike I didn't know I knew how to ride. And it was effortless and it was easy, and everything started making sense. Like dots of things that I had experiences or memories or dreams or certain things. It was like they all started coming together. And then I felt like I had cheat codes. Like I felt like I was cheating in life, because I'm like, I kind of felt like someone was going to come and try to stop me or something, because all of a sudden I was aware that I had a bird's eye view of certain things that were going on in my life, and also, certain people, places, things, that's aligned, that's not aligned. Like that's when I started understanding what alignment meant. And it just kept getting stronger. And I remember around like the other students and colleagues, we would trade readings as we were learning to read energy. And there was just always kind of something that would happen after my readings, or even my colleagues were like, like, what was that? Like, what happened? And so I continued to just kind of like, by analysis of what was taking place, recognizing that I was different, and not just that, but like different even amongst, I would say, the people that were like me.
Okay. And when you mentioned that you saw like a dead relative in the other room. Was it like a dead person actually alive in your eyes?
It was their spirit. It was a spirit of like a grandfather that had passed.
That had passed. How did you know he was passed?
Because he was in spirit form.
In spirit form. And what does in spirit form look like?
Essentially like a ghost. So spirits, I just don't like to use the word ghost because people get like all weird about it.
Right.
Essentially, unfinished business can very much be a thing. This is what I've learned as a medium. So as a medium, I have the ability to communicate with spirit outside of body. So that means loved ones who have passed, baby beings, spirit guides, demons, ancestors, like consciousness that's beyond the physical realm that is still, let's say, organized into a personality, let's say. And so had I known then what I know now, I probably would have gone and connected to the spirit and been like, you know, what can I do to help you transition? Because basically, if somebody's grandfather or something, or even it could have been someone who, let's say, had been in that house before they even moved in and they were just kind of stuck in a limbo zone, I would have gone to help them transition. But I didn't know. I was young. I didn't have the skills, so it kind of freaked me out because I'm like, how am I seeing this and nobody else is?
When you say transition, what do you mean?
So when a soul passes, there's, when a soul leaves a physical body, there's a lot of different things that can happen. A lot of people think, well, it's just one thing or it's just the other. But for me, in communicating with a lot of people who have passed, that's not the case. So when I say unfinished business very much is a thing, it's that if there are ties to things that have happened in life, or even let's say someone dies very suddenly, and there's things that haven't been completed or reconciled or like really harmonized, it can keep these people, a portion of this person's consciousness, basically stuck in like a limbo zone. And so one of the gifts that I do have is actually helping, let's say, to counsel some of these spirits that can get a little bit stuck.
I see. So they get stuck because there was some unfinished business, and they're still around? Wow.
Sometimes it's also that they are almost like healing or guardians. Like a lot of people have their grandparents around them that are like their allies in this world, helping them to like, right place, right time, meet this person, they kind of help organize things for them that can be really beneficial and really beautiful. And it can still be a continuation of the soul contract. So it's not always necessarily like a bad thing that we want that to go away. When my great grandmother passed, she was I feel like my relationship with her got better actually in her passing, because she started to help me teach my students to develop their mediumship. They're like, okay, so when they go, introduce them to me. I'll say hi, I'm friendly, I'm kind. And she was kind of like, you know, this ambassador for a while. And it was such a blessing for me to introduce my clients to my great grandmother.
And how did you do that?
Through classes.
Oh, through classes?
Yeah.
Would there be like conversations between clients and her?
Yeah.
Like we're having now?
Yes. And
how would they take place?
Through meditation. So I lead people through guided meditative journeys. So it leads them through a state of their awareness in the quantum field. So my teachings are I call them body-being connections. So I actually don't teach people to ever leave their body, and I don't teach people to channel anything external. So when people even ask me what I'm channeling, it's my heart. It's a consciousness of my own soul. And so I believe that my soul is far more evolved than my human mind can really comprehend. And so when I allow my mind to kind of take a back seat, it's my soul and my multidimensional aspects that connect to the field. So when I'm specifically working with a group, 2 or 3, or a large group, hundreds of people, part of my abilities is that I can tune into what is going on in that collective and kind of find the common thread. It's specifically focused on developing mediumship abilities. It's basically showing people how to turn those switches on within themselves. This is how this works. This is how this works. This is, it's kind of giving like an internal tour that builds those bridges of understanding what quantum mechanics we have beyond our physical awareness.
I see. And when you said your clients were able to speak to your dead
Mimi.
grandmother,
Mimi. Yeah.
It was sorry.
That's okay.
It was done through meditation. You said so.
Yes.
Their eyes were closed,
Yes.
and they heard a voice in their heads.
Yes. Or they could see her with their clairvoyance.
Or they could see her.
Yes. Or they could feel her with their clairsentience.
Really? Like a weight?
No, it wouldn't be a weight.
Okay, it wouldn't be a weight. So how would you feel her?
Well, Mimi was very joyful and jovious, and so it's kind of like the frequency of her personality shines through. So like if you're let's say you're in a room, let's say you and I are in a room,
Yes.
right? And even right now, like we could both close our eyes,
Yes.
and you would still be able to, feel my presence. Even though you're not physically anywhere near my body, but you'd still be able to feel my presence and you'd still be able to feel my energy.
Yeah.
So let's say I get up and out,
But that's
and
because
a different colleague comes in.
I saw you beforehand.
Right. Okay. So let's say I stay here, and let's say the door opens, and then a colleague of yours that you know very well comes in, but your eyes are still closed, and let's say
Yes.
they're very quiet, and there's no
Yes.
sound influence.
Yes.
But there would be an awareness that the energy in the room has shifted. There's been an energetic shift because another consciousness has just come into the field. And so that would be the physical body. But again, if we're blindfolded and ears are covered, so we're not influenced by sound and that kind of knowing that we usually rely on, right, our physical senses, we start to become aware that there's another sense that's activating, that's going, wait, I'm picking up something in the field, something shifted. It feels familiar. It feels like somebody I know. It's like that.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. I guess this is something of a revelation to me because I haven't done classes or exercises on this as such. But would this be one of the exercises that you would perform? I mean, what would be a way of showing, an easy exercise of showing that you can tap into this?
So the mediumship is a bit more advanced. So all psychics are mediums, but not all, all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums.
Okay.
So people can be born with the extrasensory abilities to communicate with beings that are outside of body. I also do very much believe that it can be learned. So that's what I help do. But we start with kindergarten. We start with, okay, let's figure out the frequency of colors. Let's figure out the frequency of certain things. Let's get more familiar with basically how to drive a basic manual car rather than getting into a
Lamborghini?
Or an Emirates A380, whatever it's going to be. It's like we want to start with the basics to understand the function of how that works before we jump way ahead. Now, some people have the gift of mediumship, but they're afraid of it because it's like, well, if I open that up, what am I going to see? Well, yeah, the truth is you can communicate with angels, and the truth is you can communicate with some dark consciousness, but ultimately in a very strange way, which takes a while to comprehend, is that they are all one and the same. And so when we approach that entire world that is considered the unseen that we're afraid of, when we approach it with courage and instead of fear, we start to recognize that it's actually like a whole other component of this reality that opens up that we can interact with.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, it's very beneficial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, as a person who is very vocal about finding your inner soul, your soul calling, multiple dimension worlds and multiple dimensional realities, what happens to us when we die?
Well, many different things can happen. Depends on how you die. It depends on the life that you've lived. It depends on the soul contracts that your soul made in coming here. And so it's really not just one size fits all type of that. This is how it is, and this is the way it is. It's just not that. I know a lot of people want that to be that way, but it's not.
It's not just so. Science says that when you're dead, that's it. Matter. You're born, you live, you die, and it's just matter. And you decompose, and that's it. And you're saying, actually,
because that's a very third-dimensional view. That's 3D. That's a physical.
That's physical.
Your body's moving because your soul is living in your body. So when you die, your soul leaves your body. The physical would go, well, the body's not moving anymore, so it's expired.
Correct.
Soul is like,
But you can't see the soul,
I'm
right?
still here.
Or you can.
I can.
You can.
You can. I could teach you how to do it.
That's
It may take a little bit of time, though, because ultimately it's the programming that we have to clear. So it's a belief that it's not real, that it doesn't exist. Religious programming is a huge and can be very, very thick, like concrete energy to break through to actually be able to experience what is. Right. And the other thing about religion is that it's like our beliefs create our reality. And so the constructs around any type of religion, it's that it does create a reality, and it creates a reality based on function that many, many people agree exists. And so because they agree it exists, it feels tangible. It feels like you can grasp it. But the other thing is that there's a way to transcend it into liberation.
Okay. Now, if there is a soul, what do you think the purpose of our lives are? If we're not just here to just live, born, die, and that's it, what do you think the purpose of life is? If our souls live on, what do you think the purpose of our souls are to do?
To create.
To create, to recreate again, to come back? And why is that?
Those are two different topics.
Okay, no, break it down for me.
To create. I believe for myself and my journey, the greatest honor I can do to my own creator is to literally pull all the switches and all the levers and to see what I'm truly made of. What is it that I can really maximize? What is it that I can truly create? I want to leave no stone unturned. I want to get to the deathbed and be like, I did it. I did
everything there is to do.
I did it all, right? Because the things that we recognize we regret most isn't what we did, even though we may have some bad feelings about some things we did, but it's really what we didn't do. Like, I will always remember being too afraid to get on the Batman roller coaster at Six Flags when I was like 10, and it stuck with me because I didn't do it.
Okay.
Right? And so instead of that, well, I'm so glad I had the courage to get on it, it didn't stick with me as much. But that feeling of, oh my gosh, I didn't do it, I think has been really influential to the way that I want to live my life. But again, I see that as, for me, an honor to my own creator and also to my soul's intention to come into this world as a human being.
I see. And do you believe there's a heaven and hell?
There is.
There is. So when we die, and do you think if there is a heaven and hell, then is our goal to do good on this earth in order to get to heaven and not bad to avoid hell?
They're both here on earth.
They're both here on earth.
They're both here on earth.
I see. So it's not a different dimension or something else.
No, I think one of the biggest lies we've ever been told is that heaven is a place you go when you die.
Yeah.
Rather than heaven is a place you can create while you're living.
Right. So, okay. So you're saying when you die, are there only two places you go to?
No.
Oh, there are other places too. What are they?
I don't know that I could explain in detail all of them, but so for instance, I had a friend that passed last February who was a dear, dear friend and psychic ally of mine. We tend to stick together. We tend to be close. When people can see us at the level that we're able to see, we need these allies in our lives. And so she was a dear soul family member of mine. And it's a little bit tough for me to talk about, but so she was on hospice and I was there, singing sound bowls and channels and just doing what I can to support the family because they were also good friends of mine. And I was home and I was grieving. I was crying on my bed as we do. And I felt the angels come to me and they put their hand on my back, almost through into my heart space. And they said, she's being restationed. They said that there were certain experiences that she had in this life that were very relevant to continuing to support the evolution of humanity. And so she's not necessarily going back home all the way to source, but because of her connection into the physical third dimensional reality that is Earth, she was able to kind of journey in another dimension, but that is still very much connected to this reality, so that the wisdom that her life experience, the information that her life experience cultivated, it's almost like having the anecdote. It's almost like having the vaccines to it, sort of thing. And so using that information, you know how to dismantle it from the inside out. And so I think that's why a lot of us have these perceived negative experiences, but it's so that we understand how to actually transmute it completely into harmony.
Okay.
Yeah, so that for me was like a very visceral and very real experience of understanding her soul contract, why she manifested cancer at the age that she did. She was pretty young, and why where her soul was going. And I also believe that eventually all souls return home. We're all just walking ourselves home, which to me is back to source.
Return home. By that you mean?
Where our soul originated.
Which is where?
Source, God, creator, universe, many different words for the same kind of, I think, intentional of consciousness.
So our source goes back to the creator, whoever that is. It could be multiple, it could be one.
Or whatever that is.
Or whatever that is. We don't know what that is, do we?
It's within you. So when you start tapping into it, you can have a better comprehension rather than going, it's this mystical, crazy thing. No, the light of source consciousness is within you.
So that's interesting because this ties into the Matrix. You've seen the Matrix, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Forget 4.
No.
You've seen
I've seen the first one.
The first one.
Yeah.
In the second film, Neo, the character that played by Keanu Reeves, meets the architect, and the architect is the sort of creator of the Matrix. So that's the second film. You haven't seen it, but it's the door of light, and he walks into the door of light. What you're saying is, when a program in the Matrix no longer has a purpose and no longer should exist, it faces deletion. Deletion goes back to the source. The source is
epic. So I'm going to jump in right here.
Go ahead.
So that is basically what's going on in the collective right now, is that collectively we are choosing to see what is happening on this planet, because humanity collectively has not faced the depths of their own shadows to delete certain programs. And so that's why we're seeing the atrocities, the confusion, the chaos. Like it is this underbelly of the deep, deep, deep shadow consciousness that exists within all of us that most human beings have not been able to face because they're afraid of it. They're afraid to see that maybe possibly within themselves, they are the villain in somebody's story. They haven't really been able to integrate their own dark aspects. And ultimately that is this ignored shadow consciousness that manifests. So that's the program that's running through humanity. Now, on the flip side of that, the light side, because there's always balance, we live in a world of duality, is that when humanity starts choosing a timeline that offers peace and offers harmony and offers like divine union, then humanity will start moving in that way. And so that's what the global awakening is. That's why light workers are here. That's why a lot of human beings are embodied now from the angelic realm, from higher dimensional systems, to basically come here and help harmonize Earth, to help delete some of these programs and systems. So that's why you hear a lot about New Earth consciousness, where we're going, a heaven on earth reality, and what is being birthed in that space.
Interesting. But when you say the word program, that means it could be a simulation, and if we're in a simulation, then a bunch of programs are just code. You don't mean that, do you?
I do believe that we live in a mental simulation, and I do believe that the awakening is leading us out of it. And so it's that both truths can coexist simultaneously. I think we really shoot ourselves in the foot when we stop at mental simulation and go, that's all that's here. I was working with a man that has a lot to say about this, has a pretty big following and does global retreats around the world. And he and I were speaking about it, and he was talking about, the mental simulation. He created a ChatGPT prompt about the mental simulation and, showed it to me, look at what I have created. And I read it, and I said, this is devoid of warmth. This has no love. This has no connection. This has no nurturing. This has no divine mother. This has no birthing, right? So in the Matrix, when they're like birthing these babies in these tubes. And things like that, it's devoid of the divine mother. And so what I believe that we are returning to in this heaven on earth consciousness, heaven on earth reality, is that we are returning to Gaia. And that is actually what births this new earth consciousness, is that we come home to our hearts. The Matrix system would rather us be cold, asleep, numb, dissociated, don't look within, don't trust your imagination, don't trust your multidimensional powers, which we all have. Not a single person in this world is not multidimensional because it is a soul in a body. Your soul is multidimensional. Your soul had a consciousness that existed before you came into this world and that will continue to exist after you die. So, right? So that's the metaphysical. That's not the science. It's not 3D based reality, but at the same time, now technology is starting to prove this because there's been so much curiosity around it. So in that, like, okay, that's where we are going, like what's happening in this world, where there's clearly a very powerful shift of evolution that's happening, as we talked about a little bit before this, around the leading edge of human consciousness, as well as the leading edge of the digital revolution. AI, there's nothing that can stop it at this point, like it's coming through. So what's actually like happening in those balances? You know.
But when you say our souls live on, is there a way that we can? You're saying technology, scientists are catching on finally. It's been time since they started only now catching up. But I'm curious to know, because these are not taught in schools. We weren't taught this in our syllabuses. Obviously, to probably put us in control. But is there a way to prove it physically, or the only way to prove it is feeling it?
So
that your soul exists.
Here's the thing. The technology of your human body far exceeds any technology that's been created.
Oh.
Beyond. And anything that you're seeing being created in AI or virtual reality or the metaverse or anything like this, it's simply replicating what the physical human body and soul in a body is capable of doing. Telepathy, we don't need a chip. I'm censoring myself because I want to start cussing.
That's okay.
So it's so ridiculous.
Uh-huh.
But it's like the telepathic abilities that we have that are innate to us are exponential to anything that I've even been able to see technology is capable of doing. Technology is literally recreating what humans are capable of doing. It just adds an element of control, grip. So what is the grip and what is the control? It's harvesting. It's harvesting life force energy. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself is to be a sovereign being. And the sovereign being is literally the whole basis, the foundation of what this global awakening is doing, right? So 2020, we all experienced a pretty traumatic event for 2 years that shaped a lot of all of us. And the really interesting thing about it is that people, you either watch them slip deeper into fear, like serious fear, or catalyzed into an awakening, having a spiritual awakening. That's why masses were waking up and have been waking up in the last 4 years, because it's, we're scratching our heads going, wait a second, they told us to trust them.
Yes.
And then we went, wait, can
we trust them?
Can we? And even then, it's like getting even more out of hand.
Yes.
Right? These government systems, it's like not only can we not trust them, they're literally using our energy, financial, money, energy to create things that we don't agree with. But
Correct.
Basically, it's like if it's being created in ways that we don't agree with, what part of us in our consciousness as a collective is actually creating that? Because that's the program that's running. And so that is a program in the mental simulation. What I can see of getting out of the mental simulation, which is literally birthing the new earth, which is literally leading us from living in 3D, where it's like, science is the ruler, and like I said, science can be bought. It's not trustworthy anymore at all because of how much corruption and influence is happening in that way. And not to mention that what is delivered to us by means of science is also controlled based on an agenda that is serving limitations in humanity, not full expressions. And that's personally why I really enjoy being in Dubai, because I actually feel that there is a lot of room for the expression of what is within. It's just full creativity, and it's a really beautiful thing, because I think at the base for all of us is that we want to live in harmony, we want our families to be safe and protected, and we want to be able to create.
Correct.
Which is why people really like money, because they want the resources to be able to create what they want to do, because it ultimately is a sense of freedom and liberation of your visions, your ideas, like what you can cultivate and create. There's so much to unpack in all
There's
of that.
so much to unpack. I have a question. I really appreciate your time taken here because there's so much to unpack. But what's the relationship between the world and aliens? So you see sometimes things in the sky, and I wonder, what's their purpose? You know, if we're in a simulation, just hypothetically speaking here and playing devil's advocate, what is their purpose? What purpose do they serve? And do they have souls? Are they humans, or are they just are they humans? And we think that they're aliens. You know, what's your opinion?
So I was raised Christian. I was raised in Sunday school. I remember being like so much focus and attention going on. Where do you go when you die?
Yes.
And if you do this, you're going here, and if you do this, you're going
there.
here. So you want to go here because this, like, it's
reward.
It's like you know, they're selling you this idea based on your choices, actions, and behaviors. Interesting. Okay. I remember being like 7 years old, being like, how do we get here? Like, where did I come from?
Your parents?
Yeah, but I think there was just something existential in me that was going, this doesn't check out. Like, the logic here is skewed. I was a very intelligent, little kid. And I think kids are very intelligent because I think we're born with literally all of the wisdom that we're here to embody.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, okay, well, now you have to learn your multiplication tables, and now you have to focus on these testings, and now you have to that literally, like, puts us in a box to say, this is what you need to do to get the approval of XYZ. And
yes.
Don't even get me started on the tangent of what that is.
Yes, I know.
But ultimately, for me, I was really just going, where did we come from? And now the whole interesting thing about the work that I do.
When you say where did we come from, as in Adam and Eve or evolution theory, or what do you mean by where did we come from? Soul?
Let me get to that.
Okay, sure.
So the where did we come from, for me, was a very prevalent and has been a very prevalent question to answer, because I think when we understand where we came from, we understand where we go.
Yes.
So, right, you're asking about aliens.
Yes.
There's aliens, and I also like to use the term star families.
Oh.
So our star families are the ones that are close to our DNA, meaning there are many different. So I channel light language, which is a soul language, right? If you've seen
light language?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you've seen my Instagram, you've seen me channeling light language. If you haven't yet, I suggest
I've seen your
watch a
Instagram.
couple
I've seen your Instagram.
Right. So if you notice there's a language I'm speaking that isn't English.
That's not English.
Yeah, it's not English. So it's a soul language. I went from not speaking it at all to, within a matter of 10 minutes, a full-blown activation.
Does it have an alphabet?
Does Sanskrit have an alphabet?
No.
So Sanskrit is one of the oldest documented languages. If you look at the scripture of light language and you look at the scribes of Sanskrit, they look very, very similar.
Oh, wow.
So it is more of a symbol language than it is this, Latin branched off roof of English per se. Mm-hmm. So it's also not a direct translation.
Okay.
It's not this sound means this sound means this. It's kind of like some of these ancient or Aboriginal tribe languages, it's like,
yes,
it's like 3 words, and it's like a full poetic poem of like, my soul is happy to greet you in the home of my family, and it's like, hey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay.
But it's a frequency-based language.
Okay.
So within that, right, my network is mostly channels and light workers and that sort of thing, because I've been doing this for a long time. And there are many of us that speak different dialects of this language. So the different dialects of it would bring us to different star families. So there's some that are close to us that resonate very strong, some more than others, where it's like, oh, that feels like home. And then there's some that's like, oh, that kind of doesn't. And so, yeah, I'm sure you're
going back to the alien question.
This is all of that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But go back.
So going back to the
question?
what's your opinion on what their purpose is, and
So
are they?
That's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you say you believe they're star families, are they our allies? Mm-hmm. Are they?
Most of them are.
Most of them are, but not all of them. So some of them are our enemies. Suggesting.
If you want to split in duality, then yes.
Okay. So why would they be our enemy? Do they want what we want? Do they want our freedom?
Because human life force energy is a very valuable resource that's being harvested on this planet. Look at the school system, look at the medical system, look at the financial
Adrenochrome.
system. Look at all of the systems that are literally harvesting human life force energy. This is what I'm talking about, getting out of the simulation and actually coming back home to what is true within.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
And they want to steal that from us, potentially? I see.
It's a resource.
I see. Okay.
It's a slave matrix.
The slave matrix. Wow, this is really interesting. So, but the ones that are not, why are they in the sky?
They're doing what they can to help liberate us. They're not in the sky. They're in the multidimensional grid system that we are all in, coexisting right now.
But why do they look like they're in the sky? Because we see videos of them like super fast, like you see them and then like, and then boom. Mm-hmm. Is that extraterrestrial activity or what is that?
I would say so. Because I think there's a part of what's happening in the world right now that's like really important for us to understand. Like, we are not separate from them. That's what I'm trying to say with the light languages and the speaking different dialects. We are not separate from them. When I was young, I used to have dreams of me having blue skin or me having purple skin, and I didn't really quite understand it until I started channeling light language. I went, oh my gosh, this whole thing makes a lot of sense. And also when I started channeling light language, it was like within that day, that week, my quantum periphery, what I was capable of seeing in beyond the physical, opened up a lot. And I actually saw the entire planet surrounded by a lot of ships. And all different colors, all different sizes, all different, and it was like they're around this world. Like, why do you think nuclear war hasn't happened? If it was up to the emotions of these males that are in a lot of power.
Because it's mutually assured destruction. Because if they were to do it...
Yes, okay.
That's one logic. That's one
logic. But do you really trust that the emotional intelligence and comprehension and control of some of these people are really like at that level? Like, maybe. Do they second guess themselves before they make a call? Maybe. But is there also maybe an influence of technology that's being stopped or being mitigated, or dream cycles or sleep cycles? It's like there's certain ways in which we are interacting with the quantum field in a huge way, because this planet has an extraordinary amount of resources that are useful not just here, but in other places, in other dimensions, on other planets, and all sorts of things. So Earth like really is a hot commodity. And so there's a lot going on this planet that is, one, desiring to be protected by the ones who have invested in creating it. And so a lot of us are activating those memories. So going back to why I was so concerned about where we come from, is that one of the gifts that I share more often than anything else is I call it activating soul memories. So it's not just about, well, I was this in a past life and that influences me now. It's like, no, I believe that there are a lot of us that are actually incarnate in human form right now that are the architects of these fifth dimensional cities, such as Tello, such as the Agartha network, such as, and I could go on, but it's a matter of understanding that there's so much more going on in this world than what we have been taught.
Okay.
Because once we start figuring it out, things will change.
Agreed.
And it's happening.
Agreed. Definitely there's a metaphysical side that can be denied, because I felt an out of my body experience before, both in drugs and also in my sleep. So that's just personal to me.
Yeah.
But a critic might just argue, look, I need to pay the bills. I need to make money. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of what does this mean? What does that mean? Is the Earth flat? Is NASA just a circus? Some would argue. Right. Not going to get into that. I need to pay the bills. Is it worth going down this rabbit hole, or is it more worth it to just pay the bills and make sure that you live a free life, a freedom life, a life of freedom? What's your opinion as we wrap up?
Well, what's great about that is that that's actually what my whole business is based off of.
Right.
So that's what I mean by a soul-centered business coach, is that your soul has a purpose in being here that brings you to fulfillment. It's not just about, ooh, I had an exciting day jumping out of a plane.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got to ride a balloon. Like, ooh, I got to travel because it's expensive. No, it's like because we know that can be very empty. But what is I believe tapping into the state of fulfillment is really, why did your soul come here? What is your soul purpose? What are your natural innate gifts? Let's open those up, and then let's actually create a thriving business that shares that message and that legacy in a way that is serving your soul calling on a very high level. That's why I don't believe the broke healer archetype, that healers have to be giving, and sharing. That was great when we lived in tribes and communities and villages where everything was more taken care of. It's just not the case anymore. And I also believe that this world is going to be a much better place when healers are more in control of a lot of the finances. Because if you ask them, they want to have retreats, they want to host, they want to have healing centers, they want to bring people into their wholeness, they want to have rebirthing centers where people can go and wake up and face their fears and face their traumas and actually come into wholeness. And so that's also what I see. My path has led me to Dubai, led me into the crypto world, led me into these things, to be able to build a bridge with the visionaries that want to see the world and human beings feeling safe in their body, not just chasing accomplishments and chasing accolades, because eventually it just becomes, a collection on your mantle.
Correct.
And so it's like, okay, so then what does that really mean? What is the vibrancy of that? And so, yeah, that I believe that is actually my dharma, is to not just explore these metaphysical worlds and realities that I think is really important to pay attention to, but also how do we access our soul vision, our soul purpose, and have all of the resources necessary to bring that into fruition, to see that happening. And so that's why I'm a soul-centered business coach. That's
amazing. We're going to leave all the links in the description. But just before we do wrap up, I have two more questions. You mentioned that you believe that there are multiple dimensions, multiple universes.
Two different things, but yes.
Okay, fine. Let's firstly define those two. Let's define.
Okay.
What's the difference?
Okay, so a dimension is a consciousness.
Okay, consciousness.
So you're talking like star families, these star family connections.
Like aliens?
I say aliens as the ones that are not working in service to humanity. Is not the aliens I would say are harvesting. And this is my own personal vocabulary.
Does that include reptilians?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
And then the star families are the ones that are our allies, that most of us are actually a part of that family of light.
Okay.
And so they are here as our allies. They're vibrating, let's say 7th dimension, 10th, 9th dimension, and above. And so it's when we elevate our consciousness in a way that we can actually make those connections, is when we start having these really powerful transcendental experiences to see the bird's eye view of what's going on here and what has been going on here for a very long time. You look at sacred sites, how was Sacsayhuaman, how was Machu Picchu built, these types of things, pyramids, Göbekli Tepe, these types of things. There's all sorts of questions that we can kind of muse on. But ultimately, it is a level of consciousness that we can almost graduate to be able to have these conversations in the same way that I was talking mediumship. So mediumship and communicating with a lost loved one, that is kind of like mediumship kindergarten. When you start expanding more and more, you start elevating your frequency to be able to have conversations with angelic guardians, beings of light that are leading us into this harmonious new way of being, which is the new earth.
Right. Okay.
So that would be the dimension. It's a frequency space. A different galaxy is a different thing. A different universe is a completely different thing, which is absolutely massive. I have done reading with a woman that I did see came from another universe, and when I saw that, it blew my mind because I was like, oh, there's one universe, and then I was like,
no, there's multiple universes.
From what I saw that one time was like, okay, there's clearly more than what I know here, and that door was just opened a little bit. And so sometimes, even on my own journey, I'll get a little bit, and then my mind has to comprehend and digest it. And then I'll get more examples of it. But I've been doing this for now 15 years, so that stroke of curiosity has never left me, which is how I've been able to basically access the information that I'm sharing with you. It's like, okay, I tiptoe into it, digest it, tiptoe into it, digest it. Oh my gosh, a whole other can of worms just open. I've had like 4 different stages of massive awakenings. Channeling light language was one of them. And it just continues to unfold. And there's constantly more to learn.
When you say multiple universes, are they, so one universe is huge. Let's just make it a circle so that it's easy to understand. That's one. But when you say they're multiple, are they all like next to each other or are completely...
Or overlapping.
Or overlapping in the same...
Consciousness, maybe.
We don't know, right? It's hard,
I would
to know.
not be able to confidently answer that question
Yeah,
and say, I know.
Yeah. Because no one has been outside. Because some argue we live in a dome. We're inside a dome. And
I understand.
You know what I mean?
The flat earthers, the firmamenters.
Right.
Yeah.
But if that's true, what's above the dome?
I've also never had a conversation with these people that actually believe in what I'm talking about, which is literally 5th dimensional consciousness and above. So when we limit ourselves to go, okay, we live in a dome, we live this, Tartaria, all these things, okay, great, wonderful. And where is that leading you?
Yeah.
Like, where does that go?
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting for proof to come up and all of a sudden, well, okay, in the meantime, what are you doing? Like, why not have some transcendental experiences? Why not open your consciousness? Why not explore on a higher level of like understanding that there may be something that's much greater than any of us can really fully comprehend, and start exploring it, because it's actually innate to our being. It's actually innate to why we're here in this world to begin with. You know, there's a lot of time.
Really interesting. Really, it's making my head hurt. But it's fueling curiosity. You know, the forbidden fruit. You don't talk about these things like what flat Earth theory versus what's outside. Because if you just took a spaceship and just kept going up, what do you think you'd see? If you just kept going up, would you see space? And if you kept going up, what would you see? More space?
Let me ask you this.
Would you ever hit a surface?
Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever playfully entertained the idea that you could go and sit on Saturn's rings?
Yeah, I have. I have actually.
Okay. So what happened?
I imagined it. I imagined sitting on the ring while it's passing through my body, or I'm sitting on it.
Right, and so then did you throw that experience out as like imagination that just doesn't really mean anything?
Eventually.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Right. There's more to that. That's all I'm saying. There's more to that.
Okay. All right. I love the optimism. For someone who's listening who's never thought about intuition and soul aligning, soul searching before, what's one thing you'd want them to take away from your course, from your teachings, or even from this conversation?
That there's more.
That there's more.
Be
curious.
Be curious. Keep an open mind. Always stay in your heart.
Okay.
Always stay in your heart. I believe that our heart is a multidimensional gateway that is actually what opens the consciousness of our multidimensional self. I believe that the heart has been wildly attacked in this world. It's why casual hookup culture is all over the place. It's why people say dating is so challenging right now, is because there's been a complete devaluation of romance, of partnership, of what it means to actually fully connect. And it's not to say that you have to be in love to open your heart, but it helps a lot.
Right.
And simultaneously, it's that when we hold grudges and we don't want to forgive and we want to hold on to that bitterness, it's also contributing to the pain that we carry on a daily basis that doesn't allow us to open our heart to have these transcendental, very powerful and profound experiences that ultimately connects us to our power. So I'm a massive champion and advocate for heart consciousness and heart healing and focusing on the heart center as a doorway.
Wonderful. As we wrap up, I want the audience to know a bit, just to wrap up, to know more information about you so they can get in touch with you. Where is the best place for them to reach out to you, to find out more about your business and even enroll in your course? Yeah,
Instagram is the easiest. So it's at sitara.speaks.
Yep.
From that point, I've got reels that connect into the DMs and do the whole thing. So that's the easiest. And also, link in bio, we always keep the most up-to-date programs and trainings that we have there. The official website is monadsociety.com. But again, the most up-to-date is all on Instagram.
Okay, got it. And the website's the best way to enroll in your course, which you sell, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, the course is called Build, and so it's a year-long training course specifically to develop your psychic abilities, and specifically to develop your psychic abilities by means of advancing your healing capabilities, your skill set to be able to offer better client results, as well as to grow your client-based business. So it is, yes, client-based business, and sometimes we get people from other industries that want to be in there because we focus on the healing of the nervous system and the expansion of what we are capable of doing. So I don't believe that people have business problems. I believe we have internal limitations that reflect in our business.
True.
And it's not always black and white. It can be very emotional, it can be very deep, it can be very complex. And so the teachings and trainings that I have are, here's the strategy, and also, like, I can give you the blueprint. Here's a black and white blueprint, here's a strategy. But some people get stuck on step 3 and then never get past it because they can't, for whatever reason. We tap into that for whatever reason. Like, let's actually get to the core root of that to expand what you are capable of doing.
And by the time they complete the course, what are the expectations? What are the takeaways you want them to have?
I mean, there's so many different results. Best client results was I had a woman who had actually written her own book called The Dragon Within. And she ended up going through the course. She was so willing to be honest with herself. That's the key. She was so willing to be honest with herself, and she was so willing to look in the mirror of what was really actually going on, that by the end of the program, she actually launched a 9-month Way of the Dragon Heart program. This is no ROI, no business type of thing at all. Literally teaching people how to channel dragons, how to connect to their dragon lineage, to activate dragon ley lines on the planet. And she ended up selling it out on her first try. So it can be very esoteric, it can be very out of the box, and it can also be extremely practical. Like, you want to make more money in your 3D business, like, let's figure out what internally, though, is causing that to be limited. Like, why are you holding yourself back?
Right. So for the flat earthers, they can benefit from becoming millionaires, maybe.
I don't know that a flat earther would be able to handle maybe 2 months in my program. They could try, but they might also eventually go, okay, wait, I was sitting in some limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts around what exists. And I want to be clear on that, is that what we believe creates our reality, right? So we can say that Santa Claus exists because there's enough people on this planet that are contributing to the belief of that magic. So you can maybe say, okay, well, Saint Nick exists, or he doesn't, he jumps down the chimney, or
Tooth
not.
Fairy,
like, okay,
anything.
like, we know, yeah, right? But it doesn't even necessarily matter, because the magic of that belief system creates a reality in the person that's experiencing it. And so by means of that, right, we can actually tap into, okay, our beliefs create our reality, but also just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So there's something to be said about that. With the flat earth, again, I see it as a 2-dimensional consciousness. It is a limited way of being able to access information that's in this world. Is it to say that it doesn't exist? No, I think that the flat earth, let's say, does exist. Does a round earth exist? Yes. Does a multidimensional earth exist that you can tap into extraordinary amounts of timelines and grid lines and systems? So Telos, you can look it up. It's in Mount Shasta. It's Telos. It's a 5th dimensional city that is literally the vortex of Mount Shasta. And so...
Can we go there?
100%.
How?
That's
another Pandora's box.
But I have been in it, and I actually have a podcast on my channel that's called Visiting Telos, My Experience in Mount Shasta. And I was not expecting it, and again, another one of those life-changing days.
When you said you visited, was it your not your physical, but your mind visited?
My physical body was in a place called Pluto's Cave, which is a lava tube that actually contributed to creating Mount Shasta. And the energy is like palpable. You get there, and even as you're parking, you're like, whoa, there's a buzz. Like,
where is this place?
Buzz. It's Mount Shasta.
Oh, it's in Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
Which is where?
Pluto's Cave is a lava tube that helped create Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta is a mountain that was created as a volcano.
Wait, which country is it in?
The States. It's in California.
And it's in California.
It's in California. And so I went there. I went there with a retreat group of women, and I was walking. I was very aware that there was a woman standing next to me who was not walking into the same dimension that I was walking into. I was very aware that I was walking into another field of consciousness, another field of energy. She was standing 3 feet away from me, but she did not have this experience.
Oh.
And so I kept feeling this barrier of energy in front of me, and I'd ask permission, like, may I step forward? Like, thank you for this opportunity. And I felt that I just kept being able to, I just kept being granted access. And so next thing I know, I'm standing there and I'm looking at this giant cave, and the energy starts moving. I start seeing it, and then boom, all of a sudden I am in a city.
Oh.
And this city, I had a very profound experience in that space. It felt like family. I was channeling my codes and speaking to another being that was there channeling codes, and we were both understanding each other, and it was like a reunion. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy you found us.
Oh, wow. Was it men and women there? Or what was it?
There was a man and a woman that I personally interacted with.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other beings or no? Just those two?
There definitely were, but these were the only two that I interacted with.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Lots to unpack there, and
Lots.
we have so much to talk about on a separate occasion, maybe a round 2, because we couldn't fit everything in one podcast.
There's no way.
But with that said, I've said all your links. So I just want to wrap up and say one last thing. Thank you for your time, Sitara.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All the best with your courses. I really would love to know more about them, and I might check it out myself.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Why not?
So thank you. Yeah, might as well. It's curiosity, forbidden fruit.
Right?
So yeah, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Hope you found this insightful. We will leave all the links in the description. That was one hell of a mind-blowing podcast I had today. I'm still trying to digest everything in my head, but it was definitely a new topic to explore. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you again for watching. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Web3 TV